Right, we're on. Yes, people, welcome back to Process. It's been a while since I've done a guest episode, so good to be back. Welcome to the podcast, Ryan McGregor, PTI in the British Army. How are you doing, mate? All right?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good, very good. It's good to kind of have someone from a different realm on the podcast. Like I said, it's been a while since I've had one. Do you want to quickly introduce yourself? Obviously, I said you were a PTI in the British Army. Introduce yourself, kind of how long you've been in the Army for, how you first got into it, and kind of take it from there.
Yeah, so I'm 26 years old, as you can tell by the gleaming accent. I'm from Newcastle as well.
Fellow Geordie.
So I currently live in Newcastle, but I'm posted to Windsor. That's just one of the locations I've been based in the last 7.5 years I've been in the Army. Passed out of training at ITC Catterick in 2014, and then I went straight to London. I've done a year in London, it's great. Been based in the centre of London, and then from there I've moved over to Windsor, where I've spent the last sort of 6.5 years. Besides that, I've done a 2-year posting at ITC Catterick as a PTI, which is probably one of the highlights of my career. So in terms of like places where I've been based, they're the 3 main locations.
Yeah. What made you kind of get into the British Army? Because I know a lot of people always look into it, Royal Navy, Marine, stuff like that. What made you get into it?
To be honest with you, as a kid, I was just Army mad. I joined the cadets, which is sort of like dangle the carrot. That was like the sort of the main playing point. They sort of says, look, this is like sort of what the Army does, and I absolutely loved it. And then all my best mates, they joined up a lot earlier than me, and then they were going out to like Afghan and stuff and telling us the stories about how some of the stuff they're doing over there. And I was just like, I'm in. I need to get in. But because I was only 16 at the time, my mum and dad wouldn't sign the paperwork for us to go infantry. Because when you're 16, your parents have got to sign the paperwork, and they wouldn't sign it. So they says they're happy to sign it if I go in for a trade and not infantry. So I signed up for aircraft technician, went up, done the selection process, got a start date for aircraft technician. Then I was 4 weeks out from starting, and I broke my ankle. And when you break a bone in that time period, they just defer you a year regardless what it was. I tried to challenge it and say, oh look, it's only a minor injury. I was back in after like 3 weeks, but they were like, nah, that's you for a year. So I've done the year, went straight back up to Scotland to do the selection process again, sat down with the interviewer. He says, oh yeah, still want to go aircraft technician? I went, no, I want to go infantry. So the waiting period for aircraft technician was 6 months, and then you would get a start date. So it would be like 6 months, and then you would get a start date for like 9 months time. So you could have been waiting like another year and a half. And because I'd already been pushed back a year, I was just like, yeah, I just want to get in the Army. So I just went infantry. I had a few mates who were Coldstream Guards. They were saying, yeah, you should join the Coldstream Guards. I was like, right, I'm in. Let's do that.
Yeah.
And then from there, I think it was like 6 weeks later, straight in at ITC doing the combat infantryman's course.
Yeah. What's selection like? Is it tough? Because obviously you hear about it from like, you see it on the SAS and stuff like that. Is it quite tough in terms for the British Army, or slightly different?
So it's nothing like SAS selection. That's that's another level. The selection to join the Army, it's really basic. The sort of look at you go up there, you do like interviews, you do fitness tests as well, and then they'll decide on whether you can go for your job role or not. So job roles like aircraft technician, you've got to have the academics to be able to go into that job role. So if you've not got the GCSEs or the requirements, then they'll tell you that you can't go in that. You should choose another one. They'll sort of like hand really down a job role, that one that they need you to do, and two that you're sort of eligible to do. Mm-hmm. But then once you've done that, you'll get given a start date, and then you'll go and do your relevant course. So for the infantry, it's the combat infantryman's course up at ITC, so Infantry Training Centre Catterick. You've got other courses, so the Royal Engineers and all that sort, they go down to Pirbright and do a shorter course there, and then go on to their phase 2 from there. So there's lots of different locations you can be based to sort of start off. But if you're infantry, you'll start off at ITC Catterick.
Yeah. That's kind of the baseline. What level of fitness would you say? Because the place that I used to work at, we used to do all the PDFTs for the Royal Navy, Marines, and stuff like that. So I know the kind of standard. What sort of baseline level is it that you need to be at to get into the army? Because I see people, there was still quite a lot of people failing the PDFT because obviously there would have been backlog because of COVID. What would you say, recommendation wise, if you want to go in the British Army, what sort of baseline measurements or what sort of things do you need to live up to?
To be honest with you, the fitness tests have just changed recently, and they're not. I don't know how to word this. It's not like they're not physically demanding, but they're demanding in a different way.
Right.
And I think that a lot easier for the individuals to achieve now. So the army's in sort of a time frame now where they're gathering a lot of data from all the tests that they're doing, and then I think in a few years' time they'll change slightly to become a little bit harder. But at the minute, physical wise, they don't need to be that fit. My advice for someone joining the army would be have a good strength conditioning base. The main player on whether someone will pass out or not is not how fit they are when they rock up. It's whether they can do it without getting injured. Because if you get injured, you get put back. You could be 6 months there. If it's a big injury, you might get medically discharged. Through personal experience, I've seen people up at ITC Catterick who've came up and who are like really, really overweight and really struggling with the fitness, but they've got the right attitude, so they rock up. Put 100% in every session, and the change from start to finish is unbelievable. There's a group of PTIs, I think like 36 PTIs up at the Infantry Training Centre now, and their sole job is to get the recruits fit enough for them to pass out. And they are extremely effective up there as well. Really, really good bunch of lads, and the work they do there is really good.
Mm-hmm. It's quite good that you're saying there's people who are going into the army who are overweight and kind of not to that fitness level. Some people probably think, oh, I need to get to a certain level to go in, but it's more the mental side of it, which I think it goes down to any sort of physical thing that you do. In terms of like joining the gym, everyone's like, oh, wait until I can get to a certain level on my own, like in the house, going for runs and stuff. But it's kind of good that there is that sort of thing where, right, it doesn't really matter where you're at. We'll get you there as long as your mentality is there and your attitude and stuff. So sorry, I interrupted you. I'll let you carry on.
Yeah. So it obviously, as in everything, it's like whatever you do, the fitter you are to start off with, the better it'll be, because when you're in with a group of sort of males or females and everyone wants to be the fittest, and the fitter the group are, the harder they can be pushed, and you don't really want to be like sort of hanging out at the back, or if you're on a run, you don't want to be the guy like who's 300 meters behind. But if you've got that good strength conditioning base and a good like aerobic base, so you don't have to be like Mo Farah fast for like distance and speed, but if you've got like a good base, so if you can run like sort of 6K plus without stopping, it is sort of relatively decent pace, be absolutely fine.
That's not too bad then. I was going to say about obviously being in the British Army. There was a little thing. I did a tiny little bit of research for the podcast because I try to prepare for these sort of things. But I did a little thing about the British Army, and there was a study done with 2,000 adults saying 1 in 10 people only think that the British Army is literally just go out and fight. That's literally all they think they're going to do. So take us through, first of all, like a day in your life, and then also what kind of other things are involved within the British Army itself.
Yeah, definitely. So what I will say is that my sort of job role is pretty unique at the minute, but it depends on the job role of the unit. So with me, I'm an infantry in an infantry battalion, and that'll vary a lot from someone who's a Royal Engineer who say, or maybe an RLC bomb disposal guy. So it just varies on the role. But my job role at the minute is I work in the gym for the Coldstream Guards. So my only job role at the minute is to deliver physical training to the battalion, so 300 plus men and women as well. So my job role at the minute, I sort of get up in the morning, I'll train myself before work, and then I'll go on to deliver various PT lessons during the day. Again, we've got like it's called a PTP, the physical training program, and that will outline what lessons we need to deliver. And then we'll deliver them lessons, and then I'll train again in the evening. In terms of like the war fighting side of it and what the army's sort of currently doing, the they're not in sort of any sort of major conflicts anywhere, but they're all posted like all over the world. You know, they're over in Africa and then in the Middle East. You know, they're in they're doing overseas exercises in sort of like Jamaica and stuff like that. And they're doing jungle training like Belize and Brunei. So there's a lot of like different elements going on, and it's just to increase the readiness and capability of our army. The last thing the British Army needs is for us to go to war in a place where we're not familiar with. So like the likes of Belize and Brunei, jungle training, you know, we do jungle training in case anything kicks off over there. So it's important that happens. Besides that, we've also got things like STTs. So these are short-term training teams. And what these are, it's to sort of enhance the capabilities of other armies. So our allies, we'll go and work with them. I know there's blokes we've got to Kenya and places like that and deliver training to their armies so that they can increase their capabilities. Again, it's just the wider picture. I'm working with NATO as well. Yeah. And then outside of that, they do a lot of like humanitarian stuff, especially the Med Corps when big outbreaks happen for like COVID, for example, they might be sent to locations to help it like sort of increase their medical capabilities. So it's certainly like a busy time, even though we're not war fighting. There's still soldiers like all over the world doing stuff.
Yeah. So it's not just that that's going on. There's loads of different things. So probably people who might go in the army, there's obviously a lot of different things that can do. What are the chances do you think of there being some sort of war on your own opinion? Because everyone's got their own opinion on certain things. Oh, this is going to happen because of Korea, because of this, that, because of COVID and stuff like that. What's your personal opinion?
Without a doubt, there will be another war in the future. It just depends on what sort of war it's going to be. The way the world's going at the minute, it's more than likely going to have a lot of cyber stuff in, because everyone's sitting back and thinking, why do we need to send soldiers in there when we can just send drones in? Or, you know, we don't need to go and send troops in to actually grab a person to get information off them, when someone can just be sat back in the UK on a computer, they can just hack the computer and get all the information they need anyways. So there's a lot of that going on, a lot of the sort of cyber stuff going on at the minute, and that's sort of one of the biggest threats at the minute. But in terms of actually like boots on the ground, I think that'll be sort of dominated by what other countries do, especially within NATO. So like America's a big player. I think if they start putting boots on the ground all over the place, then sort of because we're their closest ally, we might sort of follow, or might be told to follow.
Yeah. So you never know, mate. Never know what happens. But the thing that you said about the cyber thing is a big thing. So that could happen literally at any point. It'll happen. There's so many things that could possibly go wrong. So you probably were right in terms of that. So in terms of the training that you obviously deliver within your PTI sessions and stuff, is it a lot of strength stuff, conditioning, or is it more? Do you think it's more building the mental capability of obviously the soldiers rather than the physical side, or kind of a bit of both?
So we'll just have like a bit of a history lesson now. If we go back to 10 years ago, there was a lot of sort of running and tabbing. So tabbing's basically just running with like day sack and like sort of pack on your back with weight in. There was a lot of that. There was also a lot of injuries. It's now sort of moving across, and we're doing a lot more strength conditioning side of stuff and building the body up, and then supplementing that with the cardio side and the sort of aerobic side. So a lot of the sessions now are sort of strength conditioning based, circuit based, but then we do also like sort of supplement that with, for example, battle PT, where we'd get the 100 kilogram logs out, we'd take them out, we'll do boot runs, do the tabbing as well. So there is still a lot of that, because that's our capability. As infantryers, if we get put on the ground somewhere, we need to insert into an enemy location. That's how it's going to be done, with weight on my back. So we need to train for that. That sort of I don't know how to word it.
I know what you mean though. Yeah, that's sort of I couldn't even think of a word to describe what it is, but that's sort of kind of realm of training. I get what you mean. It's completely different. It's got to make it realistic to what you would obviously go out and go and do. If you yourself kind of had any, obviously you mentioned about your ankle injury, in terms of anything else that you suffer with, have you had any serious injuries?
I wouldn't say serious injuries, but I've had a few injuries. Me knee, that was pretty bad, and my lower back. But again, this is sort of where the passion for fitness has came from as well. Just sitting around. A lot of people sort of tend to sit back and sort of they'll go on Google and, oh, I've got this injury, and then they don't end up getting it fixed. So I went away, used a lot of my own time to try and figure out how I can fix injuries and how I can prevent them. So that I just went through that process. Obviously, seek the right information I needed from the medical professionals as well. But I've done a lot of sort of homework myself and worked out how I could fix injuries, like sort of on my own.
Yeah, that's what I found myself. I found a lot of things that if you go through, like go to like your local standard doctors or whatever it is, if you have an injury, most of the time they just either prescribe like ibuprofen or just tell you the kind of tick box exercises to do. I found the same thing, trial and error with your own body. A lot of people don't want to go in and invest in their own time and their own body and going out and trying different things, different movements. Or most of the time they just go and sit down and rest it, which a lot of time doesn't do it any good, like at all. Like rest sometimes with certain injuries, resting things, like a lot of muscular ones, and depending on how bad it is, getting the body moving stuff so good. But yeah, looking into different things, and now with like podcasts, YouTube, Instagram, there's so many ways of kind of finding different exercises. Like for my knee stuff, I've looked a lot. Have you seen that knee over toe guy? Have you seen him on Instagram? You'll have to check him out. But I think he's ruptured. He's had like kneecap surgery, ruptured his patella, whatever it is. But he's now doing these he's doing Nordic curls, super range of motion, split squats, loads of things. So I'm implementing them in my own training, and I'm picking things that I found that work well for me, which I think a lot of like one thing doesn't obviously work for everybody. So kind of use your body as an almost like, sounds stupid, but like an experiment with certain different things, because one thing that works for one person, like I said, won't work for another. So people who have them little aches and pains, especially back pains and stuff, get yourself moving. Even just going for a little bit of a walk and stuff rather than sitting around and doing nothing, that doesn't help at all. So
Definitely.
Injuries. So you say back injuries are probably the most common within obviously the British Army?
Yeah, there's a lot of sort of back injuries, a lot of knee injuries, a lot of ankle injuries. It's mainly just off the impact and just the poor condition of the soldiers. But now that we're moving into the sort of strength condition era, and there's a lot of that, the injuries is like shot right down. The blokes are, because we do a lot of education now as well. So the blokes will know that if they've got sore knees, to go and like do certain things, or try certain things out before they have to go. Because 9 times out of 10, it's probably the same on Civvy Street as well. You go to a physio, you spend loads of money, and it's dragged out over a massive time frame. You normally, especially through the NHS, because there's so much strain on it, you go see the physio, and then like a few months later, you're on the next stage. But you could have done that by yourself, within like a few days, and it's just so much time.
Yeah, like you said, the NHS have got enough things to worry about with them. So you're probably doing them a favour if you look into it yourself. You probably will find better things if you do look into it yourself. So it's good as well that the British Army, because I've noticed it, because my background's football and sporting and stuff. So I've noticed obviously a massive shift in S&C and stuff the last few years. The same things apply for the British Army, because I would have thought it might have still been kind of like the old school mentality, get yourself, like it's more of a mental battle rather than physical. Like how hard can you push yourself? But implementing like a bit of structure and knowing that like, your body's going to break down eventually if you keep on hammering it into the wall. Obviously you've got an educated background in terms of the British Army and the way that they're doing it. So it's good to see that that's changed. Like you said, you've probably found that the injury rate has massively dropped over the last few years. So talking about the progressions in terms of obviously yourself and also within the British Army, is it one of them things where it's kind of like a natural kind of stepping stone to get a little bit higher up, or do you have to kind of push a little bit in certain areas, do extra certain exams, stuff like that, to get to kind of higher rankings? Obviously, I know hardly anything about rankings and stuff in the British Army, so you can probably explain it a bit better than me. I'm learning as we're going,
Yeah, so again, it's job role specific. So within the infantry, you've got to do certain battle courses to be promoted. Within other regiments, you've got to do courses. Maybe it might be an external course, and that'll make you eligible for promotion. And then again, it's on like time served as well. So if you've done a certain amount of time in that rank and you've done all the courses, then you'll be promoted. Every year you get a thing called an SJAR, which is basically like a yearly report. And then that SJAR goes against everyone else's SJAR, and you're sort of ran within your unit, and then that they'll decide like who's performed the best, and then the best performing people will get promoted. If they've done their courses.
Yeah, what was I going to say, in terms of yourself, where do you kind of want to go within the British Army? Where do you see yourself going?
So I done my PTI course about 4 years ago now, and done 2 years at ITC Catterick, and then on the back end of that, there's a regiment of the British Army called the Royal Army Physical Training Corps, and these are sole specific physical trainers of the British Army in layman's terms. And to get into that regiment, you've got to do a selection, which is week long, and then at the end of the week long selection, you'll be told, yes, we want you in the corps, or no, we don't. So I went and done that back in January. I managed to pass. So my next career progression is to go over to them in October. So in October, I'll move from the Coldstream Guards. I'll go and do a 9-month course, and at the end of that 9-month course, if I pass, then I'll then be Royal Army Physical Training Corps, and then from there you progress as a like sort of a PT in civvy terms, and then you'll promote up the ranks again through your SJARs. But then once I've moved into that world, it's all PT, and you get external postings to different regiments, and then again it's just doing the PT for like 24/7. Yeah, and that's your life from there.
Yeah. Is it kind of like a long-term career? Because I know, like, in terms of my head, well, I'm obviously football background, that's a very short career. In my head, in terms of like the PT delivering one-to-one sessions, I see that you can still obviously do it for as long as you want, but it's quite a short career in terms of when I'm 50 and 60, I still don't want to be delivering one-to-one PT sessions. I kind of want to be a little bit like in different realms. Like, when do you ever really see a 60-year-old PT in pure gym? Like, you know what I mean, kind of thing. So there's got to be a kind of step. So, like, in the big picture, have you thought about, is like the Army, obviously for your example specifically and for other people, is it a long-term career? Is it something like, is the stepping stones outside of it? What's kind of the long-term pictures?
Yeah, so when I've moved over, so if successful, I'm in the PT corps. I'm just going to try and just do as long as I can. I've always said that if I don't enjoy it, then I'm not going to be there, and I'll sign off and get out. But I think down that job role, there's so many different opportunities to do different things. It's I think I'll be in for quite a while, and then you get quite a few civvy qualifications as well. So because you're always doing courses and that, there's loads of opportunities to gain qualifications. And then if I manage to push like 24 years out, then you get your pension as well. Well, you get a pension of 12 years, but then it just increases constantly, and then you get a full pension at 24 years, which means you essentially wouldn't have to work when you get out. Yeah, which is not too bad. But then I'll be able to fall back on all the civilian qualifications that I've gained through the Army, which is pretty decent.
Yeah, so there's a bit of support for people going out of the Army sort of thing. There is quite a bit of support network. I can imagine there being a big mental switch for that, because I keep comparing it to kind of the sporting world and football and that, but it is that atmosphere, not just in terms of like it's a short career, and there's a lot of mental things going on, especially if you do end up obviously going to war and stuff like that, and it ends up getting quite serious. But in also terms of like, you're a group of lads and you've probably built a lot of good relationships, and losing that sort of, like we talked before the podcast, and you might have a few stories to tell. So if you've got any of them, we'll talk about them in a second. But like, you have that close unit network like you do within sporting, and it's probably quite tough when you do step away from it and you probably drift away from people. So it's good to see that there is the kind of little bits of support that the Army do give.
Yeah, definitely. I would say anyone who's looking to join the Army is just take every opportunity you can. They're out there to be taken. An example of this would be the 2 years I was at ITC Catterick. I done a football tour in Cyprus for 10 days, a football tour in Miami for 10 days. I've done 11 adventure training courses. So this is like rock climbing instructor, canoeing, kayaking, the instructor variants of them, mountain leader training in Wales. I went, most of the AT courses were out in Cyprus, so they're week long. I've done 6 weeks out in Cyprus, and then I went to the Caribbean for 10 days as well. on a sailing trip. But it was just because the opportunities were there. I looked for them and I went and took them.
Yeah.
But you tend to see some people join the army, they'll do 3 years, they'll want to sign off. And then when you've asked them what they've done, they'll have said they've done nothing. And you're like, well, that's why you want to sign off, because you've done nothing.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many opportunities out there, especially within the army. You've just got to take them.
Yeah.
And most of them, like all the adventure training stuff, it's free. The army's basically paying me to go to Cyprus for a week to go and get a qualification. It's honestly, it's mental. People are like,
doesn't sound too bad, like.
Yeah, honestly, it's crazy. Like the football trip to Miami, went out there for 10 days, and I think we paid £350 for 10 days in Miami.
10 days.
Yeah, went out there, we played a few football games, done a few training sessions. Honestly, it was unbelievable.
And then just a lot of drinking, I guess.
Aye.
You must have some good stories. Like, what do you see the best trip you've done when you've been away?
Yeah, the best trip I've probably done was Miami. It was just unbelievable. I was there with 20 other lads who are just like me, absolutely love football, bang into that. We're all quite close. We got on the drink together, we've done the training together, everything we've done it together. And it was just, we had such a laugh. And it was just from the second we woke up to the second we went to sleep, we're just on at each other, just constant banter, 24/7. It was mint.
I love that. I love that sort of thing. I think that's what a lot of people would miss. Like, again, I keep relating it back to football. There's a big difference between the army and the football, but how like that team spirit. There could be people, because I'm big on life after football for lads who have made it or not make it kind of thing. The army could be a good switch because it's that same sort of team environment, like having banter, going away, like drinking with people. That's the same sort of environment that you live for within football. That's what people miss about it when they step out of it. So the British Army could be an easy carryover. You're already going to have the fitness. You're going to have that sort of mentality about wanting to actually perform and do better. And you've got that team bonding sort of thing. So no, I love that. I need to get I feel like I want to get myself in. I've never been to Miami. I need to get myself in. Can I just jump on the flight with you for the next time you go away? I know. I'm guessing that's kind of been stopped a little bit because of COVID, and they're not doing as much anymore with that sort of thing. That's kind of been killed a little bit.
Yeah, it's sort of a pretty bad time for all the fun stuff at the minute. All the adventure training, all that sort of stuff, it stopped for a big period of time. It's just starting to pick back up now. But again, all the external stuff. So when we go like skiing in France, again, that'll be on the COVID regulations. And then when we do like the skiing and the rock climbing in Bavaria, again, that's on the COVID regulations and all that sort of stuff. And so for a huge chunk of time, it stopped. And now they're starting to do the adventure training within the UK. That's started up again. And then as the restrictions ease over the world, and they'll start opening the different centres up around the world, and then that'll start back up again.
No, that's class. That's class. That. Well, then we'll talk a little bit about yourself in terms of your training, in terms of your fitness journey. When did you first start getting into? I'm guessing there's probably a football background. When did you start getting the fitness, and how has it kind of changed your style of training, what you've been into over the years?
Yeah, so I started playing football when I think I must have been like 4 or 5, and I played constantly until I was about 13, when I had some really bad injuries. I done all the ligaments in my knee, and I was on crutches for 12 weeks, and then I broke my ankle as well. So I went from a kid who was running around constantly playing football, 3 times a week, 4 times a week. So I went from stick thin to being on crutches for 12 weeks, and I piled the weight on. Really? And if I had a photo now, I'd show you. And honestly, when I show people the photo, they're like, "That's not you," and I'm like, "I promise that's me." And then that was sort of just before I joined the army, and then I had to get like fit for the army, and it was just I was in a world of hurt just because I was so big, and it was just so hard to train from where I was to getting to that stage where I could sort of join the army. And then once I joined the army, I didn't really know what I was doing. I went to the gym, but I went to the gym just because I didn't want to get fat again. So that was like the main motivator. So I went from just no real structure and phys to do no fitness for like a huge period of time. It was like a period of like a year, 2 years. And then I started to do fitness, but it wasn't like sort of structured, and I would sort of just go to the gym and I'd be like, yeah, I've not really got anything out of it. I just done it to keep myself fit. Then I'd done the PTI course in the army, and that's sort of what like the light bulb came on after that. And I was like, geez, there's so many different ways of training. Let's sort of experiment. But to be honest with you, I'm down for doing any sort of training. You know, I've got mates who play football. When I go and train with them, I'll do football based stuff. I've got people who are mates who do bodybuilding training. So when I'm training with them, if they're about and they want to train, you know, I'll jump on that. I've got loads of mates who are into CrossFit, you know, I'll jump onto that. And a few people who are into the cycling on the bike, so I'll do that as well. It's weird. I'll just get into everything.
Yeah.
Sort of.
I like that though, because people feel like the need to kind of identify themselves as one style of training, like, oh, I'm a bodybuilder, I'm a CrossFitter, or I'm this, that, and the other, I'm a footballer. Like, you don't have to, you can literally just do whatever it was, and you can still attain a very, very good physique with that way. Because a lot of people, the big argument obviously is, oh, you can't get big when doing cardio sort of thing, which I think by now we should have kind of proven that wrong with like CrossFit athletes and stuff like that, like yourself. If anybody needs some workouts, by the way, check him out, because check your Instagram. I'll tag it in the show notes. Mate, you absolutely bin yourself all the time. Like you're saying, you're doing like 2 workouts a day. There was a squat workout and a C2, squat and C2 workout, I think I seen.
That wrote us
that one again?
That was off a page on Instagram called GrizzFizz. And it basically just, I'm sure I'll just sit down behind the computer and go, how can we make this?
How can we fuck people up?
And then one of my mates sent us it, and I was like, I'm going to do that. And I'd done it, and then by the end of it, I was like, what on earth was I doing there? And then for like a week, the DOMs were unbelievable. I was in a bad place, like. But most of the time, like, my mates will just tag us in videos. So, you know, see if you can beat this guy's time, or see if you can do this. And I'll be like, yeah, looks like a good idea. Obviously I don't enjoy it at the time, but afterwards I just love looking back and going, that workout was horrible.
People think we're proper weirdos. Like sometimes my clients come in the gym and I've had a workout on the board that I've wrote before, and they're like, did you do that? And I was like, you fucking mental. It's like, I don't know, however many calories on the assault bike. And they're like, I don't want to do any more than 10 calories on that thing. Never mind doing 200 or whatever it is. But it is crazy once you get that kind of addiction to it, in that like endorphin release afterwards. It's just like you get a buzz off the mental challenge. You get a buzz off writing something on the board and being like, you know what, that's gonna fucking hurt, but I'm gonna feel 10 times better at the end of it. Like it is kind of like sick the way that you think of, if you think about it. But once you get that itch, like it'll come in. Like you said, you started off no sort of knowledge. You started off overweight. You had no sort of routine or structure and stuff like that. In however many years it's been, you've built it up. So people who are listening, who are maybe, if they're watching the little clip on Instagram, if they see this, you can start off at literally any single point and progress through it. Like, don't worry if you've got no education about it. Go to the gym and you might look at someone and copy what they're doing, or you might speak to someone, or you might see something on Instagram and just try different things, and you'll end up finding something that you enjoy. And if you enjoy something, you're going to stick to it no matter what. Even if you're not to the level where you're absolutely billing yourself every single day. Yeah. DOMs for 2 weeks.
That's it, exactly. So you've just got to start. Once you start, then that's more than half the battle. And then you might not have much structure, but just getting in the gym, doing something, and you know, if you follow someone, that's sort of where my Instagram page came about, because there's a lot of people out there making a lot of money, and there's some people who can't afford PTs. They've got no idea about education. They don't know what to do. So I just like putting bits of information on there just to help people like that out, because there's not always going to be people who can afford, you know, these mega expensive programs and they've got all the kit, and they might just need a little bit of inspiration, or just a video that look at and go, oh, you know what, I can do that. Oh, that doesn't seem too hard. You know, I'll go and try, and then think, oh, that wasn't too bad. And then the next thing, you know, they're bang into fitness, and that's just the main thing. Just getting started, just going for it.
Yeah, no, that's why I literally put probably majority of my workouts on Instagram, just because, well, one, I enjoy doing it, and two, like, people will message me saying, oh, like, I tried this, or like, oh, I didn't realize you tried, like, doing that sort of thing. And then you kind of like, you get that yourself as like a coach almost. you get that kind of, that's why the reason that I love doing what I'm doing is because people are benefiting from it. And I know what it was like being someone who just started out and looking up to people and like trying different things out. So the more that you can give for free, because people do charge a lot these days, and there's a lot of people putting out content for free that's just as good. Like following, I love following like smaller Instagrams, people who are just kind of starting in, who are really obviously banging to the fitness, they know what they're doing kind of thing, but they're not like verified and got 100k followers or even like 10k followers. They're just kind of doing it because they love it. Which is obviously what I'm grateful. So shout out Fraser for recommending you, by the way. Fraser Hills, mate, you best be listening to this, because that's the reason obviously we started this podcast. But so you're training at the minute. What's it kind of looking like? Because you said you're doing AM and PM. What is your training currently like? You brought like a program for yourself.
Yeah. So I've done myself a program. It's mainly strength conditioning based, because I just do not want to get that knee injury back, because that was a big stopper for me. So it's sort of like centered around lower body sort of strength, and then I need to maintain the cardio side, so it's supplemented with cardio. But again, what I found really useful is the zonal training, especially for cardio. It's not a lot of people have heard about it, which is bizarre, because in my opinion, it's like definitely the way to train, especially when you're running or cycling or swimming, anything like solely cardio based. So I do a lot of me running like zone 2 or 3, and I've had people like say come up with us and say, "Oh, I follow you on Strava, and like your run times are awful, but when I see you do like best efforts, you're a lot faster."
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, it's zonal training, and that sort of build that big aerobic base, and it sort of helps a lot. But I do a lot of that now, whereas beforehand, like when I just joined the army, I would sort of rock up me trainers on, and I would just thrash myself as long as I could, for as fast as I could.
Yeah.
And then within sort of 6 months, get an injury, and you're like, back to square one.
Yeah.
But now that I've started doing the sort of zonal training, I've been sort of injury free, which is decent.
Yeah, that's one thing I've kind of learned, because when you do get that kind of passion for fitness and that addiction to it, you can just go out there every single day and back yourself because you love it. No matter how you feel, you will do it. But over time, you'll either pick up injuries, you'll start feeling like shit, you rely too much on these sort of things, which is, I think every fitness person's addicted to caffeine, like, but never mind. But like, you'll end up running yourself into the ground. But then after that, you'll realize, right, I need a little bit of structure. Like doing the zonal training, because I watched a few things on Matt Fraser. He does a lot of zone 2 stuff, just kind of 45 minutes on the C2 bike, just keep his heart rate at a certain rate. But doing that, building up the capacity, like I said, rather than doing like absolutely just blitzing yourself 100%, like there is a time and a place for that sort of thing. But the more, if you think, the more that you can get out at that sort of zone 2, zone 3 level, build that up, you'll be able to come back in the gym next day and still perform a decent workout. Whereas if you've been yourself, you're going to be ruined for 2 or 3 days. So having a bit of structure, I'm looking a little bit more into that, because it's more for like running and endurance stuff. If you want to build your capacity. So if you're into your CrossFit and you're cycling, you're running, definitely look into that if you haven't. So what's your strength stuff looking like at the minute? Is it Olympic lifts, just strict powerlifting stuff? What is it?
So it's a bit of Olympic lifting. Because I do like doing CrossFit, so I don't want to fall too far behind that. So I'll mainly focus on like a squat, a deadlift, and then a sort of push movement, and then big on the core, and then I'll supplement that with a bit like sort of Olympic lifting, like the clean and jerk and the snatch and movements like that. And that's just to keep me foot in the door for the CrossFit, because I don't want to progress too much into the back squat and then not be able to clean and jerk anymore. So I just sort of keep tying it all in.
Yeah. Just be an all-rounder more than anything, because that's a big thing. I think like the likes of like March on, they're one of the big people who have kind of pushed that all-round kind of style of training, like being able to do everything, like going for a run, Olympic lifting, body weight stuff, pull-ups, dips, swimming, like everything, ticking all the boxes. So I think if anybody's asking like people always say like, how can I do this, that, like, how can I be good at everything? It's simple. Just make sure you train everything, make sure you're ticking all the boxes. Like maybe prioritize weak areas for a short period of time a little bit more. Like say you see your strengths weak, maybe prioritize a little bit more than your conditioning, but then always come back to your conditioning, keep that kind of ticking over in the background, just prioritize things. So in terms of recovery, because people like talk about training all the time, recovery is probably, if not like probably more important than anything. What do you do specific recovery, like sleep wise, Obviously, supplements is a topic separately. Because I know you use the CBD as well, don't you? A little bit. I've seen you use that. Certain things. How do you kind of help your recovery, nutrition, anything?
But nutrition and sleep's probably the biggest ones. I've got a few good mates. I always put my stuff on, sharing it on my Instagram as well. They push out a lot of good content for nutrition. And then if I've got any questions, I can always just give them a message. So nutrition's a big one. And then the most underrated one, sleep. Like, people just think, oh, it's sleep. I'm wasting time doing it or whatever. But it's so underrated. And it's such a big player. If you nail your sleep down, then that's where the recovery happens.
Yeah.
I've tried loads of different recovery methods. Ice baths, trying to have hot baths with Radox, full works. I follow a page on Instagram called YLM Sports Science. So they do a lot of studies, and they've just put one up recently, like an infographic, saying like active recovery is one of the best ways as well. So I do a lot of that anyways, and I always try to, on my sort of recovery days, I'll always try to get at least like 10,000 steps in, just to keep active, and then so the body's still doing something, and then as well as active recovery. Yeah,
that's also, people get confused with like rest and recovery. They're slightly different in terms of completely resting, doing absolutely nothing. Sometimes, obviously, there's going to be some benefit to it, but it can be counterproductive, because I know what it's like if you have a day sitting on the sofa doing nothing. You wait that your next day you're stiff, you kind of, because your back's probably sore because you're laying down all day. Like, I get a sore back from sitting down too long because hip flexors tighten up. Like, after this podcast, guarantee when I get up, I'm like, oh, bloody, like my knees. I know you've had a knee injury yourself, so you'll probably know what it's like, bad knees and everything. So keeping yourself moving. I love mobility as well. I'm mobility. I know you're big on mobility as well. You put a few posts out about it. Mobility, going for walks, little like cycle. Even if you've got kids, go for a bike out with your kids. It doesn't have to be like Lance Armstrong bombing around down timeout or anything like that. Just steady little cycle. Just keep yourself moving. How you found the CBD bomb? It's because I've used it a little bit. Have you found it benefit you a little bit at all?
I've not really used it that much.
Too much, yeah. I don't know if it's some of it's like a bit of a placebo effect or not. I don't know what some of the benefits of it, but
placebo is massive as well. Like within everything, if you can get yourself in the right mind frame, then you're winning straight away. But I take like cod liver oil, zinc and magnesium as well. That's a good one to help you sleep, and then help your immune system as well. But I've done a post about that on my Instagram. I'll probably throw that up again. Because a lot of people, it's easy for a lot of people to just jump on the internet and say like, "Oh, supplements I might need to take," and then straight away my protein, BCAAs, that's the big one. Straight, and then everyone, it was like the most sold product on my protein, when really, unless you're getting all the branch, unless you're getting all the amino acids,
it's pretty really work. I done a podcast talking about that, just because it's like I used to buy it all the time. I don't know how much. I probably spent hundreds on BCAAs over the years. That's the one thing I've noticed over the years, my supplements, the amount of money I've wasted now, realizing it's so annoying. But people always try and look for that quick fix, and they go for the supplements and stuff, where like the most important things for recovery is probably sleep. Like you said, I'd say number one, and then your nutrition, getting enough protein and carbohydrates, which people are scared of having. If you want to train like the way like you do, the way that you see the likes of Marchons, Chris Rigby, all the CrossFit athletes, that sort of style of training, you need to hammer carbs in like ridiculous amounts, because the amount of glycogen you're going to be burning is going to be ridiculous. And obviously fats are important as well. But jump into supplements, like you mentioned about the branched chain amino acids, get enough protein in, you'll be fine. The only real thing that I would probably recommend is, well, creatine, obviously, for one, which is one of the most researched supplements. For your joints, you said obviously cod liver oil. I take, have you seen Nordic oil? Have you seen that? It's like, it's a certain type of fish, but I take the spoonful one, which is lovely. Really tasty, mate. The burps aren't too bad. And then for the rest of them, probably looking to, have you ever had your bloods done before?
No, I've not. I think one of my mates has had it done. I definitely need to try it.
Yeah, I did it once. My missus is a nurse, so she done it for us a while ago, because it turns up in a little pack with a needle and stuff. And I didn't realize you had to obviously go to your GP and they do it for you. So I was just like, got her out of bed. I was like, "You're a nurse. Go on, just whack the the wrist supports. Whack one of them on my arm. Give it a little whack, and then I was in." So they got that done, but it was Medichecks that done mine. And so have a look at like what vitamins are you deficient? Is your D3 all right? Obviously, we live in England, don't we? So sun's hit or miss in it. D3, I take B12 probably just after the Joe Rogan podcast. Listen to that. Vitamin C as well. I've started taking that for joints, definitely, and also for your immune system. When you've been feeling run down, you can. I think it's 3,000 milligrams that you can have up to. I think it was on the Joe Rogan. That Rhonda, what's her name? I can't remember her name. I've went blank now. From the Joe Rogan podcast. I'm trying to think what else, and that's probably about it. Occasionally, I'll probably have silodextrin if you've had that before during my workouts. Just to get carbs in, because I'm literally just carbs, mate, just free carbs. Apart from that, anything else that you take personally that you would like just for yourself? I wouldn't say obviously recommend it because we're not professionals in that sort of realm, but anything yourself that you take?
So just protein. Protein's a big one. I supplement that because I just can't get enough of it in my diet without like massively going over my calories. I take creatine, beta-alanine as well.
I forgot that one. I forgot that.
That it's quite a new sort of supplement that like I think it was people first started looking into it when Matt Fraser went on Joe Rogan.
Give them an extra lung. That's what you said, isn't it? Yeah.
And Reggie Fassa as well. And he's like, I take 5 scoops of it, and then he's just like off his face.
He sounds like a little Raji, him. He just sounds, he's strong though. He's a strong lad. Fit as well.
Other supplements are just the same as what you've mentioned, to be honest. I think it's easy to just say, oh, this supplement everyone's taking it, and then you're like, oh, a few years later, you're like, oh, I didn't even need to take that, because I was exactly the same with BCAAs. When they first sort of came out, everyone was taking them, and I thought, oh, I'll just jump on that. And then when you actually do the research into it, you're like, wasting money here.
Yeah.
So that's what I'll do now. I just make sure that I know enough about everything before I start taking it. So like with the BCAAs, I have a few mates now who will message us saying, oh, should I be taking BCAAs? And I'm like, well, no, you don't really need them. And then they'll ask us why, and I'll send them like links to like on Google Scholar to like proper reports and all that sort of and studies done why you don't need them. So I'll always do research on the stuff I take before I take it now.
Yeah.
Just because I'm tight and I save money.
I know, mate, exactly. I'm exactly the same, mate. I'm tight. I say to a lot of people as well, if you're first starting out, because like I said, we're kind of, I say experienced. We're only, you're 26, I'm now 25, so we're around the same age. We've been training for quite a long time. We've probably wasted a lot of money on supplements. If I was to say to someone starting training now, some things that I would invest in is, well, like I said, sleep you can't really invest in. You can do certain things to invest in your sleep. Invest your money in good quality food. Don't waste your money on shit food and alcohol and stuff like that. And then probably third, get a good coach. Because if I had a coach who taught me things for the first 1 or 2 years, it's almost as if you're like skipping them 1, 2, 3 years where you're kind of doing the complete wrong thing and overtraining or under, like all that sort of thing. If you get a coach who teaches you about technique, teaches you about training structure, recovery, techniques, whatever it is, you can save yourself you probably save yourself more money and time than anything. It's just obviously people don't like forking out the money for it in the things that kind of they want the instant kind of results. So all right, I'll go and buy these supplements. I'm gonna have 15 grams of creatine a day and use the bag within a week just to try and get massive. So yeah, invest in things. What was the stupidest thing you've done in terms of training, in terms of supplements, nutrition over the years? Can you think of anything?
It's probably the start of me fitness sort of lifestyle. That was probably a massive mistake. Just jumping into everything. But like you just said there about the coaching, completely agree with that. I follow a guy on Instagram, and he's like the fitness guru, and he was saying that when you buy a new house or you want a new house, you go into your mortgage advisor and they do all the work because they've got the knowledge and they've got the qualifications, and you probably don't. You could probably do it by yourself, but you pay them a little bit of money, and then they'll, in the long run, they'll save you money. They'll sort everything out, and that exactly that. Yeah. The most precious thing you've got is time. So if you can save as much of that as you can, focus that elsewhere, you're on to a winner, really.
Yeah, I know it is crazy because I know exactly the mindset that you're in when you're young and you don't want advice from people. You just look at, like, I used to look at the Flex magazines and muscle and fitness magazines and just like, all right, I'll do that workout. I'm going to look like him in 2 years time or whatever it is, but it doesn't work like that. So yeah, just invest. I mean, we are both PTs ourselves, so we're probably just trying to plug our own coaching business now. Yeah. I know. Speaking of which, actually, because I know obviously you've got your Instagram, you do a little bit of online stuff. I want to talk about the reality for people who are just starting out. Like, I've been doing online coaching for like a few months, nearly a year now. Like, the reality is everyone talks about online coaching saying like, oh, like you can make 4 or 5K a year working at home on your laptop. It's a load of rubbish. It's like, it's a very slow process and it's so hard to obviously get people in. How has it been for you? Have you had any clients, a few little bits and bobs, or?
Yeah, a few little bits and bobs, but to be honest with you, I'm not wanting to make loads of money. All I want to do is just push that education out and put a little bit of content out, build my Instagram, and then just do that for now. I don't really need to be pushing out loads of programs. You know, I've not got the most time in the world, so I can't. Like, for instance, I wouldn't be able to take on like sort of 10 online clients, and I wouldn't want to do it because if I put myself in that situation, they wouldn't be getting a good product. So I've got like we said before, Fraser. I do his programming, and people think it's really easy. Oh, just sit down here. I'll just throw a few exercises. But when people have got specific goals and you're trying to get them to that goals, it's pretty difficult.
Yeah.
And I just want to make sure that the people who I do take on, they're getting the best product as possible.
That's why I never understand these coaches who have got like 100 online clients. Obviously, majority of the time, as bad as it's a copy and paste job. Majority, they have to be realistic. I'm so like, I'd probably go the max. I don't know if I'd want to go any higher than like 20 would be ridiculous. I'm trying to think of the amount of, like, if I had 20 clients, how much attention, because I'm very OCD and I know that I'm writing a program for, like I say, like a 4-week block, and I'm putting it for someone to actually go and do. Like, someone's actually going to go and do that. It's not just like, all right, a copy and paste, that'll do. People are actually going to go out there and do it. And if they do something wrong, they could get injured, or they could, I don't know, anything could happen.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I'd rather just really put my time into something and get that satisfaction and get that person the actual result. I'm big on building relationships with people. Like, if you're one of them coaches who've got like 120 online clients, I guarantee you're not having a conversation with them or not invested in them necessarily. There might be 1 or 2 coaches in a million who, well, not even a million, 1,000 who actually do really have that kind of connection. But I'm big on actually wanting to see people develop. So the reality of it is, it's not as amazing as you think. You've got to spend a bit of time programming, checking in on people every so often. But if you love it, you kind of enjoy doing it anyway. It's one of them things where you'll take the time out to do it for someone. So have you PT'd before in gyms or anything like that, or has it just been purely for the army?
Nah, I've done a few sessions with friends and all that when they've seen us off, can you come along, give a hand, but then it's not a PT. You know, I'll go along. I do my little brother quite a lot. Like, he's up saying, oh, will you come to the gym? We'll train this or that. And I know he's like, yeah. And in my head, I'm like, he's getting some free PT sessions, yeah.
Should be charging. That's what I say to my missus. I write her programs up, like 4-week blocks and shit. I'm like, you know, people pay for this. She's like, oh, you write up another program? I'm like, no, because what am I getting for? So I don't know, having a missus is a nightmare anyway. So role models, who would you say a few of your role models in the industry are currently, or even like when you were younger, kind of just getting into fitness? Everyone's got different role models.
Just within the fitness industry.
We'll stay fitness, and then in general, I've got the last 3 questions that I put down. We'll save that for the end. But in terms of fitness, who would you say?
Bit of a tough one, that. In fact, Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah,
his work ethic is unbelievable. He's all about making the best product for the team. And you can't fault him.
He's an athlete. So you're Ronaldo over Messi, because everyone's got that argument, don't they?
To be honest with you, I think that equally is good, but when it comes down to work ethic and putting the extra bit in, Ronaldo every day.
I'm a Ronaldo man, definitely.
Oh yeah.
100%. Just because of what he's done and who he is. Like Messi, yes, he's technically amazing and stuff, but Ronaldo, like you said, worth ethics from where he's came from. Obviously, his background originally as well, from where he was in Portugal, where he was living, working his way up physically. And then also the things he's done in terms of business, in terms of things outside of it. Like everyone knows him. Like Ronaldo was purely because of his brand. He's got hotels, restaurants, all that other things. So he's branching out and doing a lot more. Whereas Messi, yes, you can't knock him at all. But for an all-rounder, I'm 100% Ronaldo. 100%.
And then I would say if we're looking at role models, people like Marcus Rashford, again, unbelievable. You know, I think he came top of the, I think it was like worldwide as well for how much he's given in terms of his net worth. I think he gives like 120% of his net worth, or 120% of how much he's earned a year to charity, which is unbelievable, really. You've got like billionaires who give a lot, multi-billionaires, they'll give a lot. They'll give more than what Marcus Rashford does, but percentage-wise, compared to their net worth or whatever it might be, he's pushing out the most. And then all the sort of online abuse they get as well, it's crazy how they give so much and then still get all that's the shit they get.
Yeah, I think there's always going to be there, no matter how much we talk about it. That is always going to be there, as bad as it is. There's always going to be people. You're going to have people on net typing things like that. It's going to be people who in public say stuff like that. Like, we can talk about as much as we can, but I don't know how we're going to really stop that sort of thing. It's one of the things I have to live with. But the more obviously you talk about it, the better. The more we try and stop it. But yeah, Marcus Rashford's done really well what he's done. He had a good NBA last year for it all as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. Well deserved, isn't it?
I know, 100%. Right, so we'll wrap up. Firstly, before we do them last 3 questions, for someone who wants to join the British Army, would you, what 2 or 3 bits of advice would you give them? Maybe fitness-wise, maybe preparing for it, anything at all?
Fitness-wise, just have that base aerobic in terms of like running. You don't need to be going out before you start basic training with 40 kilograms on your back running at 100 miles an hour. It's just unrealistic. So just that base aerobic and have a good strength conditioning base as well. And in terms of getting through your career, just take as many opportunities as you can. And then for the sort of the mental side of it, just if you put 100% in everything and have the correct attitude, you'll fly. You'll absolutely fly through the army and you'll enjoy it. And you'll get the most benefit out. That's my personal experience anyways. If you've got the right attitude and you put 100% in, then it can't be bad.
Yeah, I think the same applies for most things. And like, if you put the effort in and stuff like that, that's all most people can ask for. And you'll end up surrounding yourself with good people, which obviously the army, I can imagine like everybody there will be 100% on it, and they've all got the same sort of focus and mindset, which is spot on. So, last 3 questions. I asked everybody these. Did you prepare a little bit for them or not? A little bit.
I had a quick look and I thought,
I know, it's always a tough one. Everyone's like, everyone always asks me, and I still don't know myself what they are. Everybody who's like, oh, who do you think? I'm like, I don't have a clue. So first one, 3 people you'd like to invite round for dinner or go for a coffee with, past or present, so it can be dead or alive.
The first one will be Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I don't know someone who wouldn't have Joe Rogan on that list. He's just super, super cool. And he's just so intelligent as well. The amount of people he talks to, it'd be hard not to be intelligent. Next one will be Prince Harry. And the reason for this is, in my eyes, I think he is the best role model, especially for young lads. He shows that, he's got the charity side. He does a lot of giving, a lot of charity work, especially the Invictus Games. So the soldiers who have had big injuries, lost legs, lost arms, eyesight, all that sort of stuff. But then he also shows a side of, he stands up for what's right, especially within his life. He's had a lot going on. He's just stood up for himself and obviously his wife. And then also he just shows that he's a bit of a lad as well.
Yeah, I was waiting for that one. He seems like a good bloke.
And then the third person, you might not have heard of him. He's called Jordan Peterson.
Oh, Jordan Peterson, yeah.
Yeah, the Canadian professor.
Yeah.
I watch his videos all the time because people go out their way and they'll have all these stats and they'll fire them at him, and he's just like, no, you're wrong, and you're wrong because of this. And these videos are
He's got an answer for every. I sometimes need to listen to his podcast with a pen and paper because a lot of things I say just goes that way. There's a lot of podcasts I'm like that. I'm like going for a walk. I'm like, I need to be sitting down writing stuff. But yeah, he's unreal, isn't he? He's class.
Yeah, on another level.
Quality. Right, next one. 3 people you want to train with.
The first one would be Cristiano Ronaldo,
Yeah.
just because he's worth work ethic. It's second to none, really. Next one would be Matt Fraser. What he's achieved is unbelievable. Along with, probably Tia Claire Toomey after these games as well.
Yeah.
She'll be sitting on 5 if she wins these. And then the third person would be Arnie. Who wouldn't want to train with Arnie?
Yeah, I know. It'd be ridiculous. Even now, I'd love to train with him. He's getting on a little bit. I know that, but he's back in the day, back in the prime. I'm guessing you watch Pumping Iron then.
Aye.
Yeah, it's quality, mate. I like that. The training with, I'd love to see Matt Fraser and Arnold train together because Matt Fraser likes a little bit of bodybuilding as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, that's what he said on his podcast, that he really enjoys it. So now he's going to do loads of bodybuilding.
Yeah, get him on stage in a few years.
He'd probably do well.
I know he probably would. And then last one thing you would say to yourself 5 years ago.
I would say make goals, make a plan to achieve the goals, and then just don't stop until you've achieved them.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep motivated and do it.
Yeah, I love that. I love having goal setting because if you've got nothing to aim towards, then you're just kind of just floating through life, aren't you?
Yeah,
you've got to have a little sort of purpose to things. So no, I love that. Where can people find you? Instagram. I'll tag it down below anyway if it's on YouTube, down below in the description, and then for the podcast it'll be in the show notes. But just shout your Instagram up just in case people are driving or whatever it is.
With RM Coaching, and then if you click on it, it's a little black icon with RM Coaching in gold.
Yeah,
and that's the main social media I use. Everything's sort of on there.
Yeah, there's some decent workouts on there. You love a coffee as well. I've noticed you love a coffee on your story.
Coffee,
I told you, everybody who's into fitness, especially CrossFit stuff, caffeine addicts. Everybody's caffeine addicts. It's bad. It is bad. I know, but mate, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Not a problem.
Spot on.